In the name of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, God is one. Amen. Well, it's a pleasure to say good morning to everybody. God bless you all. Good morning to Gary and Stella. There's some nice pictures there. Helia, God bless you. Yes, happy feast of Deacon St. Philip, the Apostle, and Thecla, who stayed up to listen and say hello. Anthony, good morning. Dino, thank you very much indeed. It's a beautiful day here, really lovely. One of those nice looking autumn days. A little bit chilly, absolutely covered in dew this morning, and a slight sort of feeling of maybe soon it'll be icy. So that was quite interesting. My garden's looking, I have a tiny, minute pocket handkerchief size garden here. You could certainly lie down and touch either side of it at one end, and the other end is only a little bit big enough to put some bins in. And but it's completely full of flowers, lots of pots and things planted up and grown seeds, and keeps me out of mischief. Anyway, there we are. But it's looking very pretty, full of all sorts of pretty things like violas, what they call pansies, and the very last of the other summer plants. So that is looking good, looking very nice. Good morning, Vicky. Good morning, Christos and Palk Saki. And that's very good. Thank you very much indeed. Parastika. I am better, yeah. Yes, thank you very much. Right, today we're going to be looking at something that I had planned to look at a whole nearly 11 days ago, on Friday the 1st. What a lot of time has gone past to that one then. Friday the 1st, and it's Romans chapter 11, verses 11 to 15. So we'll begin by looking at that. Toadstools, owls, logs being cut, trees and falling leaves. It's definitely the way it is here. St. Paul says, verse 11, Romans 11, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Certainly not. But through their fall, to provoke them to jealousy, salvation has come to the Gentiles. Now, if their fall is riches to the world, and their failure riches to the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? For I speak to you, Gentiles, inasmuch as I am an apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry, if by any means I may provoke to jealousy those who are my flesh, and save some of them. For if their being cast away is reconciling of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? Okay. So that's a very small little pericope. So obviously I was trying to keep to 10 at 10 back then. So we'll see how we get on now. Okay. Cyclamen and pansies. Yes, I've got cyclamen and pansies in my garden. I'm thinking I might get some, what are those things called? The hills behind the monastery covered with them. Grouse eat them. My mind's gone blank. It's as if I should definitely know what I'm talking about. I know something about plants. Heather. They dye them around here. They look terrible, but natural heather looks rather pretty. Anyway, verse 11. Basically, the background thing is, as you remember, St. Paul is talking to a Jewish audience in Rome and also sprinkling Gentiles amongst them. And he's saying to them, what am I doing? What am I doing? And the Jews are saying to him, what you're doing is this, you're turning your back on your own people. And St. Paul is saying, I'm not turning my back on my own people at all. That's just not the way that things are. In fact, quite the reverse is true. I wish they'd all be saved. And if I can do anything to make them saved, then that will be great. even to the point of view of making them all feel very jealous. And the latest question the Jews ask him is this: well, have the Jews stumbled? Have they sinned to such a point by rejecting Christ that they are utterly and completely fallen now, hopelessly fallen, to the point where they won't be able to get back up again? And St. Paul uses this characteristic phrase that he has, me genito. In other words, may it never be, may it never come to be born. May that never happening. Certainly not translated into English. Stella only gardening twice a year. Malenga, she won't be a very good customer of yours. Anton, good morning, God bless you. Thekla won't be a good customer either. Gardening couldn't be more easy. You plant something in good soil and keep watering it. Right thing, right plant in the right place. That's the answer. If you plant a plant that likes shade in the full sun, it'll die. If you plant a plant that likes full sun in the shade, it will die. But apart from that, really, it's not difficult. Some rain in Athens. Oh, golly, it's not such a good thing, is it? After so much drought. Anyway, here we go. So St. Paul carries on. But through their fall, to provoke them to jealousy, salvation has come to the Gentiles. He's saying, they have slipped, they've fallen, definitely. And because of this, actually, it's been rather good, because if they'd all accepted the gospel straight away, the church would not have been persecuted. And because it was persecuted, it spread throughout the whole of the Mediterranean. And because it spread throughout the whole of the Mediterranean, then it came to the Gentile ears, and they were turning to Christ. So this accident, in inverted commas, of the Jewish rejection of Christ has led to something rather good, and that is that the Gentiles themselves have been saved. Their stumbling, their false steps, their slipping, their trespasses has led to that good thing, Gentiles being saved. Hopefully, he carries on, they'll be provoked to jealousy, to envy, and see how good it is for the Gentiles to be saved, and what a wonderful thing it is to be part of the church. And sometimes nowadays you can wonder if that is actually rather wonderful. And this will then provoke them to be saved themselves. Okay? Then St. Paul carries on, saying in verse 12, now, if their fall is riches to the world, and their failure riches the Gentiles, how much more is their fullness? Now, basically, what riches do the Gentiles get from Judaism? Well, everything really, as far as the faith is concerned. Just think at the top of your head, there's also the scriptures, the tradition, the prophets, the patriarchs, the history, the customs, the whole idea of what sacrifice is all about, the liturgy, the psalms, Christ himself, of course, and of course all of the apostles. All of them were Jewish too. So all of these things and people are riches that are now being distributed among the Gentiles, says St. Paul, because of the fall of the Jews, because of course they then persecuted the Jewish people who did become Christian, and they ran away throughout the entire known world at that time, bringing the gospel with them. And then he has a little thought, because while Tertius is writing this down, he has a little thought, just think though, what would it be like if the Jews had turned to Christ? Think about the riches the Gentiles have got now, and how much more they would have if the Jews had only come to Christ as well. And that's a really important way of thinking about this. In other places he writes about this rather peculiar, he's no gardener either, I might tell you, about a branch that's been ripped off the vine, grapevine, and then for some peculiar reason, a wild vine grafted into its place, and then for some other peculiar reason, the original branch grafted onto the wild one. Anyway, there we go, there's St. Paul. But it occurs to him, just think about all the other things that the Gentiles would be able to have had all the Jews become Christian as well. The wonders of the temple worship, the wonders of synagogue worship, the fullness and the richness of the Jewish teaching, the fullness of that Jewish teaching, the way they'd be able to mine the scriptures to express the love of God, and so on and so on and so on. So all of these things St. Paul has got in his mind. If only the Jews would come to their fullness, in other words, they'd come to Christ. Because the fullness of Judaism is Christianity. Then verses 13 and 14, he then looks at the Gentiles. We've been talking mainly to Jewish people so far. For I speak to you Gentiles, as to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry, if by any means I may provoke to jealousy those from my flesh and save some of them. So yes, St. Paul is saying, I am the apostle to you Gentiles, and I really stand by that, and I make a big deal of it, partly with the hope that the Jewish people, the people of Israel, might be provoked into becoming Christian as well. Learn more about the gospel, that they might be saved too. And then in verse 15, look at that, 10, 12, nearly finished. Verse 15. For if their being cast away is reconciling of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? Okay, so you can see that he's choosing two levels here. If their failure to follow Christ has led to the reconciling of the Gentiles to God, just think what their own salvation would mean in terms of the Gentiles, okay, or the world as a whole. So that's reconciliation. Here is resurrection. It's well above it. They're saying to the Gentiles, us now, this is the level you guys are at. But just think what it'd be like, how the fullness of Judaism come into the church. It would be up here somewhere. It'd be a great and wonderful thing. And that sort of then brings into mind something I think we have to take seriously. The whole business of, St. Paul is quite clear here that he wishes to see the Jewish people become Christian. There are one or two sites on YouTube here run by Jewish Christians that really deeply criticize the Orthodox and the Catholics, and even describe the Orthodox and Catholics in the Holy Land as being only nominally Christian. Well, that's a shocker, isn't it? Only nominally Christian. Why are they only nominally Christian? Because they have absolutely no concern at all for the salvation of the Jewish people. None whatever. And that's what they say. And they themselves then peddle something of an attenuated Christianity to their fellow Jews, their own brothers and sisters who are Jewish. And if you look at some of these things, I can't remember what they're called now, but they're quite interesting. And they do things like they produce the gospel in Hebrew and hand it out. Apparently it's very difficult, in fact impossible, to do this. You can't buy the gospels in Hebrew in bookshops in Israel, but they print these and hand them out so that Jewish people can read the gospel in Hebrew. And they talk about that they read to fellow Jews various scriptures from Isaiah particularly, describing the suffering servant, the Messiah. And the Jewish people they read it to are astounded. They've never heard of this before. And they then say, you know what? All of this refers to Jesus Christ, who is Jewish, you know. And people say, was he? Are you sure he was Jewish? And when I hear and watch these things, there's a profound feeling of our failure. What have we done? Or rather, what haven't we done? And there's a basic acceptance. Okay, they're Jews, Jews are Jews. And these are Muslims, Muslims are Muslims. And Buddhists are Buddhists, and Hindus are others, and so on. But what about helping them to see what we see in Christ? It may mean they remain as they are. That's their choice, and God bless them. It may be, of course, they take one look at somebody like me and they decide that they definitely don't want to be like me, and who could blame them? But with any luck, they might find, more than luck, with prayer and fasting and love and so on, they may actually see behind this sometimes horrible edifice of the church, which can seem cruel and bureaucratic and out of touch, and just recently full of child abusers, and begin to see that Christ himself is more worth following than anything else on earth, anybody, anything. But I think we can't be bothered. No, we have to say to ourselves, what about propagating the gospel? Are there any limits to propagating the gospel? And are there people who we shouldn't bother to missionize? And generally, I have to say, in the church, people can't be fagged to propagate the gospel. They set very strict limits on who they're going to talk to about the gospel. Most people never talk about the gospel at all. And they have very clear ideas about people who are outside the gospel. I remember not long ago on Facebook, I think it was, somebody said, oh, well, not everybody is worthy to have the gospel. She obviously thought that she herself was worthy to have the gospel, but other people were somehow or other not worthy of it. Well, you know what? Nobody is worthy of the gospel. Nobody at all. And Thecla is quite right. If we don't love people, it's pointless. Absolutely pointless. This is at the absolute heart of the whole thing. And I think that part of our failure in preaching and teaching and propagating and proclaiming the gospel is straightforwardly that. It's a lack of love. But you do see that love of St. Paul, don't you? No, several times in just this short few verses, 5 verses, he says, I want to provoke them to jealousy so they are saved. Just think what it'd be like, you know, if they noticed what the Gentiles are up to and wanted that for themselves, and what a lot of good that would do for the poor old Gentiles, poor old things. Living this attenuated religion. Righto, let's see what people are saying. Thecla's glad that Christos has rain. You're on fire. Oh, good heavens. High wings throwing the trout, waiting for her rain too. Oh, good grief. Dino's garden looks like a never-ending jungle. Surely not, Dino. Haven't you rewilded it? That's all the thing, rage nowadays, isn't it? Rewilding. And to decide when you're going to rewild it too. I bet the birds and the bees and the slugs and the snails and those wiggly things, what they call slow worms and things, have really enjoy your garden there. Good morning, Tony. I'm glad to hear that you're better as well. God bless you. Good morning, Beverly. I've missed being here and doing this. Thecla, I completely agree. Love is the absolute key of all of these things. If everybody loved, there'd be no need for any laws or any restriction on our freedom. No, quite right. It rewires itself constantly. No need for us to rewire, constantly trying to unwild it. Just put up a notice saying conservation area and then relax. Oh dear. Entropy, huh? What a wonderful thing. You Brits can grow anything. Yes. Oh dear. British, what a scurrilous lot we are. Okie dokie, well there we go. God willing, tomorrow we shall have another go, and Wednesday. Thursday might be problematic. I'm hoping that I shall see my mother on Thursday and then go to the monastery from there. If I do, it'll be the first time in 20 months. So that'll be rather exciting and wonderful. Okie dokie, God bless you all. Have a wonderful day. Do your best to keep well. God bless you. Oh, if you could pray, please, for a young man called Andy. He was certainly a naughty boy. He was about 32, and he was murdered last week. He lived with me for a short time, and was a difficult person to have in the house, I have to say. And I've known him since he was 11. He was definitely a rascal, but nobody deserves to be beaten to death. Okay, so if you could pray for him and for his reconciliation with God, and partly his reconciliation with himself, who was a very unhappy young man. Okay, God bless you and keep you.